Well, the date on the calendar says that come May 5th, that many communities in the state of Michigan are going to be going to the polls, even though 16 other states have delayed their May elections by fiat. They have said that they just don't think it's safe in the face of the COVID threat. Yet some communities are going forward here, and that has raised a lot of concerns from a former Secretary of State, now a state senator from the 14th District down here in Oakland County, and that is State Senator Ruth Johnson. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you, Guy?
I'm good, thank you. We watched what happened in Wisconsin. It was certainly concerning. Just from the get-go here, we know that many communities did opt to consolidate their May and August elections and hold them in August. Do we know how many communities are really going to be going to the polls on May 5th?
Well, we'll have 200 communities going to the polls for largely school bond elections. We have found a way to hold the schools harmless by allowing them to collect the same amount of money in a couple of months shorter. But what I find that is so hypocritical of our Secretary of State, she's closed down her offices even for one-on-one branch visits until the best part of the time of being you really need to quarantine right now, and our governor says that will be until the 13th of May. So the Secretary of State's office is closed down to the 13th of May for one-on-one, but she is pushing to have our clerks and our election workers work during that peak time for these elections that can easily be combined with the August elections. They're putting people's lives at risk. She's protecting her staff, but she's making clerks and their staff be out there running a super poll where you have lots of people that congregate, and also the people that just merely will be in the absentee counting boards. It's an assembly line process, and they'll also be at risk.
Well, let's talk about that because, you've got folks saying, well, this is obviously a very precious constitutional right, and that since this is going to be largely a mail-in or absentee election anyway, that we can go forward safely. What causes doubts? What doubts do you have about that?
Well, we saw that is exactly what happened in Wisconsin, where the exact same plan, which is where they had one precinct open, and I represent Grand Blanc. They have 17 precincts, and you put that down to one, and they had lines very long in Wisconsin. They know that the coronavirus is going to spread because of that, because of what happened. You also have workers that have to open up both the envelopes, pull them out, unfold them, register them, and put them through the machines. It's an assembly line style for absentee votes, absentee ballots. So just that alone, but they did that in Wisconsin. They heavily encouraged people not to come to the polls, but to vote absentee. But because they condensed, just like we've done in Michigan, down to one precinct, we are going to have congregation of people putting people at risk when you could simply have your voices heard in August when every single community has an election. And by then, the election workers will have the personal protection gear without taking it away from doctors, nurses, and first responders. We'll have better protocols. We now know that the coronavirus can last on our mail for 24 hours. And so we should have some kind of protocol put in place where the people that bring those in last minute, which is a lot of people on a regular election, when they bring those in, those people that open them and process them, they shouldn't do that right away because we know the virus can still be alive on it. Everybody's wiping down their groceries because we know that now. But what about those people? We need protocols and we need personal protection equipment, and we don't have it in place, but we will by August.
Well, I want to get your reaction to something that your successor said, Secretary of State Benson. She said that it's not just about threats to health. She thinks those can be managed. But she says it's also about democracy. And this is her quote. It sets a dangerous precedent for our democracy. It signals that in a time of great challenge and uncertainty, we would opt to give up on the fundamental building block of our republic, the ability to elect and hold our elected officials accountable. Do you agree with her about that this is something where we shouldn't give up so easily? And I guess my thing is I've looked at assembly lines that are assembling masks, that are assembling ventilators, they're assembling other critical items, and they seem to be able to do that safely. Why not have an assembly line for counting ballots safely as well?
Well, I would agree. Never give up. But don't put people the average age of 72 at great risk of getting sick and taking it home with them when you don't have to. You never give up because people won't go to the polls because they'll be afraid because it is our peak week, according to our governor. This just doesn't make sense. It's not good for democracy. We need to move those elections to August. We need to make sure people have their voices heard. We need to make sure they get to vote on these items. But there's not one good reason not to move it to August, and many states have, and it doesn't take away people's rights. It still preserves voting, and in my opinion, it actually upholds democracy because people aren't going to say, you know what, I didn't fill out that absentee form, but I'm not going to go stand in line. I just won't take that risk. So
well, and that's a great point, Senator. Democracy delayed is not democracy denied.
Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, I'm very careful, and I hope other people are too. I want to vote. I will do anything to vote. But what would you do if you're high risk and you realize, and this happens you have a lot of people come drop off their absentees the last day. We have busy lives. We have a lot to think about right now. And so I might not do that because I don't want to be in an area where people are congregated. So I think it takes away from our ability to vote. I think it's short-sighted. And I think, why would we put these patriots, these people that work on these elections 2 or 3 times a year, average age 72, high risk, why would we put our neighbors in that position? Why would we increase the chances of getting sick and people dying so that we can expedite it a couple months? It just doesn't make sense. It lacks common sense, and it's incredible hypocrisy that she wouldn't even let people come in that need driver's license or something else on a one-on-one basis like they have been doing. That can't even happen anymore. You can't even go in to sell a car or to do whatever you need to do because she's protecting her staff while she's exposing others. That is just wrong.
Real quick question, because I got to let you go. But does the blame lie with her? Or does the blame lie with these county clerks and township clerks and others that are still holding these elections? She's allowing them to make the decision. So does the blame lie with Secretary Benson or with those local clerks?
They don't want to do this. They don't want their friends exposed. They can't get workers. Those township and city workers are some of the best in this country. They've been rated some of the best. They're not making this decision. It's Jocelyn Benson, our Secretary of State, that's pushing this, and it's our governor that needs to change her executive order like other states have to protect people. You don't want people to congregate, and you don't want older people to be exposed and die, then they need to do this. And that's between Jocelyn Benson and our governor. Our clerks are calling me. Some of them are crying. I don't want to ask my friends to come. My friends won't come, and they are friends, and they work together 2 or 3 times a year. So this is not a decision made by the county clerks or by the township or city clerks. They're victimized by the decisions being made in Lansing.
All right, Ruth Johnson, we sure appreciate your time, Senator. It's good to hear your voice in these times, and please stay well, Senator Johnson. It's good to hear you.
Thank you, and I would only urge that our government be consistent in what we do so we send the right message and we protect people, their health, and their right to vote and their voice to be heard.
Very good.